Hey, security peeps, we are live with another edition of Breaking Into Cybersecurity. This is the leadership edition, Breaking Into Cybersecurity 2.0. I am Renee Small, cybersecurity super recruiter, and I am here to help amazing leaders hire great talent. My co-host, Chris Foulon, is here. Say hi to everybody, Chris.
Hey everyone.
That was short and sweet. And we have our amazing guest for today is Saeed Elnaj. Say hi to everybody, Saeed.
Hello, everyone.
Awesome. So Saeed is here and he is the CIO of the National Council on Aging. And we are so excited to have Saeed here today for a number of reasons. First and foremost, I want to thank Saeed for all the work that he's doing, because with the National Council on Aging, you know, knowing in this environment of COVID-19, so many of our seniors are impacted. So we're going to get into that with Saeed. Saeed's going to talk to us about what he looks for in cybersecurity leaders. He's going to talk about security as a whole, how it fits in, and just some of the things that he's seen with, you know, having this group of leaders on his team. And we're going to jump right in. So there's people joining already saying good morning. So good morning to Eric. Good morning all here. So we are going to have Saeed jump right in and get started. And Saeed, I want to first learn about you. How did you get into where you are? You know, you're a CIO. How did you get all the way up the chain?
Well, it's a long journey. It started by being a programmer many moons away. I worked for Oracle and then went up the ladder until I became a manager, and then managed larger teams, moved on to manage IT organizations until I became the CIO at the National Council on Aging. I want to talk a little bit about National Council on Aging in the context of digital products and cybersecurity. So the National Council on Aging focuses on 2 points of helping older adults. One is living a healthy life, and second, living a wealthy life, or saving enough money, having enough money to live the golden years in a decent and a respectful way. So that's our goal to that. And we have many digital products. One of them is called My Medicare Matters. The other is Benefits Checkup, and many other products, all available online. And of course, as products that are open to the public, we get frequently attacked from different vectors, from different places. And cybersecurity has been one of the important practices within our organization. I'm happy to talk more, but I want to make it more conversational.
Absolutely. When it comes to what you see on a day-to-day basis, how do you feel that people coming into the industry can better prepare themselves to be effective within an organization like yourself?
When you say effective in terms of cybersecurity?
Cybersecurity.
Yes. Okay. So I think your question is related more to what skills a cybersecurity professional should have to be able to really succeed in this position and help us be at the posture we want to be in terms of cybersecurity. And my answer to it is the skills are, it's not one skill, it's multiple skills, from the technical skills, knowing the exact domain or the exact system that we're trying to protect, to being able to communicate what the risks are. Communication to me is a very important aspect of this profession. You can't be the guy, the geek in the corner doing what you're doing on your own. You always have to work with others, with team members, and not only that, you have to communicate with management and explain what's going on, and that needs to be explained in terms that management can understand. So communication is a very, very important skill from my perspective. There are many other skills from my perspective. It's also understanding cybersecurity at a high level, understanding what are the standards out there. How do they apply to what I do, like the NIST standards, the ISO standards, and so on. I can go on, but again, I wanted to make it more conversational and be specific in answering your questions.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So a couple comments here. Eric says the sensitive PII enticement is real. So to your point, Saeed, when you talked about the different digital products that you have, I don't know if people even, I was fascinated when chatting with you prior to getting here, just thinking about, senior citizens and the digital products. And we don't think really through, some of us anyway, what all that entails. So, the Medicare, all of those components are very, very interesting. And I can see how that could be such an attack space for cyber criminals.
Yeah, so let me share with you. Most of our products actually ask for PII and PHI data. I presume that those terms are well known, so I don't have to explain them. And with that, our customers trust us with this data. So it becomes very important. An example is My Medicare Matters. This is a product that we have online. The unfortunate thing is 80% of older adults are on the wrong Medicare plan. The people who are 65 and older, they are on the wrong plan. They either are paying more or they're not getting the right health benefits that they should apply for. And there are thousands of Medicare products out there. So what we did is we offered this product that helps people. We asked them some 7 to 9 questions. They answer those questions. We take those all PII and PHI data, your age, your income, where do you live, what are the medical conditions that you have, and then we take that, push it down to an AI engine. The AI engine looks at this data and sends back a recommendation in terms of what Medicare plan should that person look at. So with that, we're collecting a lot of PII and PHI data, and we obviously need to protect it. So we have a number of areas of protecting this, obviously protecting data at rest in the databases, making sure that we have the right DLP products, making sure that the right protection is there against DDoS and so on. So we look at the customer journey end to end through our system, and we look at the areas that there could be a threat or risk in the system, and then we add the protection layers, and we add the different professionals who step in and help us with addressing that security and addressing risks.
Speaking of supporting your clients throughout the journey, do you offer cybersecurity awareness programs to help educate your clients, minimize phishing, social engineering, things like that? As we know, seniors are very susceptible to these types of attacks.
Very good question. Very good question. Yes, we do. We have actually content related to that, and we have partners. We call them CBOs, community-based organizations, through which we actually provide education to older adults in terms of how to protect themselves. Cyber criminals go after older adults, unfortunately, in many different ways, through the phone, and obviously more recently, older adults are online, they're on YouTube, they're on the web, they're searching, and they're on email. So 73% of older adults have a smartphone, and many of them have an email account, many of them have actually a Facebook account. And this is where we engage with our customers on Facebook, on YouTube, and through email. So we do provide those type of training through our community partners. We're also part of a network of senior centers, and that's where we also provide support in those areas.
Excellent. I've been talking to so many, some seniors recently, specifically around right now with, one, COVID-19, two, just the holiday season and the uptick in general. And so what I'm learning is that they're getting much more aware, which is great. It's good to know and hear from 80-year-olds, 90-year-olds that are focused on this. And most of the time it's about making sure that their money stays in their accounts. So it's great to hear that that's what you all do, and that you're on social media in Facebook and things like that, because I know they're hanging out there heavily right now. So question coming in from Eric. So he wants to know, Saeed, when preparing for engaging the rest of the C-suite, what should a CIO emphasize as key attributes or communication from the CISO for communication of persistent risk management? Or do you see the CIO as requiring the sole communication conduit for assessment of risk?
Okay, this is an excellent question. I think it assumes that the CISO reports to the CIO, and this is, for the most part, the situation. Let me try and answer it in a number of ways. I think the most important thing, the C-suite does not understand technology and doesn't need to. The C-suite is about really running the business. And I keep saying one of my statements related to cybersecurity is really cybersecurity is about enabling the business. It is about enabling the business to conduct its business securely, accurately, timely, and efficiently. These are like fundamentals of cybersecurity. And so when I need to, or the CISO communicates to me, and when I need to communicate to the executive team, I need to communicate in terms of business terms. So what that means is first looking at risks, assessing them, and associating monetary value to those risks, and then explaining why we need to mitigate those risks. We need the different cybersecurity tools, investments, etc., at a very high level. And again, it is about making sure that the business and the executives understand that this is not only risk mitigation, but it's really enabling us to be in business and be secure and allowing the different users to access the right data and preventing those who are trying to access the data without authorization. So I'm answering in a long way, but really what's important is being able to communicate in business terms and risk terms. Those are the terms that are understood. Looking at risk in terms of monetary value, associating a monetary value to it. And I don't know to what extent we can go about it, but creating a heat map that shows the risks in red and then taking the risks that are in red and how can we mitigate them to lower them, and what kind of investments do we need to be able to actually mitigate those risks.
Speaking of risks and speaking in the language of the business, what are some of the things that you think can be done to help balance the approach between security and business enablement, both from a CIO perspective as well as from a risk perspective?
Another very good question, and I like it because I think cybersecurity, it's looking at it a coin that has two sides. One side is protecting the systems, protecting the data, and the other side is allowing those who are authorized to get access to the data, to get access to the system, and efficiently, timely, securely, and so on. So it is, and this is really where cybersecurity professionals, the successful ones, figure out the balance between the two. Yeah, I think I've mentioned that it is impossible to provide 100% cybersecurity posture. But what we can do is put 100% effort towards that goal. And what it means is really balancing resources, balancing the context of the business, understanding the business itself, and then investing in the places that protects it. And most importantly, allowing those who need to have access to the system to have access, again, securely, timely, and so on.
So Saeed, Eric chimes in here. He says, great answer. So thank you, Saeed. I wanted you to jump into some of the things that we chatted about before in regards to communication, in regards to what some folks should be looking for when, or as they are looking to get into the cybersecurity field. I know you had some topics to talk about there. And then we talked a lot about the communication aspect, but really the skills that you look for when you promote people into the field from more junior cybersecurity professionals up the ranks to your leadership.
Yeah, so on the skills front, I think what's important is for people to really understand the cybersecurity philosophy at a high level. It's basically understanding why we're doing what we're doing, going to Simon Sinek's book, Why. Really think about why we're doing what we're doing, and not to be mechanical about security. In a sense, is understanding what the business goals are, what are we trying to protect, and thinking about security, that as I said, it's the coin that has two sides. You want to protect the systems from those who are unauthorized to have access to it, and you want to allow those who are authorized, and finding that balance is a very important thing, and thinking in those terms is very important. The other thing is in terms of understanding security models and security architectures. In a sense, thinking about security, the older models for security was to, it's like this castle that everything inside it needs to be protected, and you put all the protections and the firewalls around this castle, and to prevent almost anybody from getting in. But really, the new model is to think about it from an airport model perspective, where you have the general public that can walk to certain areas within the airport. Passengers can go through security screening and can go into their passenger areas, and then the other personnel, whether it's the pilots and the service personnel and so on, have access to the different areas. So we need to think in terms of security architecture in those terms. So that's another important skill I look at. Again, understanding the business model. What business are we in? Where is the data? What kind of data are we protecting? We don't need to protect everything and anything, but we need to protect the PII, PHI data. We need to protect it against DDoS attacks and so on. It's another important skill from my perspective is dedication and persistence. And for those who are getting into this field, know that you will be called upon in the middle of the night, in the early hours of the morning, to jump in and log in and try to prevent attack, or you're in the middle of attack and you're trying to address it and to stop it. And so there's that dedication, being able to step in immediately, step up and help solve the problem, and knowing that this is one of the demands for this field. Obviously, there's the technical knowledge in the area that the cybersecurity professional is. Cybersecurity as a profession is incredibly wide range, becoming very complex, and you can't know everything. So you need to be a specialist in one area, and it's important to have that specialty. So that's another, I think, important one is understanding cybersecurity standards, like the ISO standards, the NIST standards. Why are they there, and how they can help us build cybersecurity. One more thing I would add, which is very interesting to me, that I had one of my team members work on refreshing our security policies, and an effort that took some time. And it's excellent to have your security policies, but it's also as important, if not more important, to have the procedures to implement those policies. So, and understanding the difference between a policy and a procedure and a process is very important. So people think that I created a policy, I'm secure. You're not. A policy is just a statement saying we want to have our users behave in a secure manner, yada yada. We want our customers to have access to this and that and the other security. These are statements, aspirations. Then the processes and procedures step in and complement them. They're part of that whole cybersecurity governance and structure, where you say, this is how I'm going to protect my data. I'm going to implement XYZ system. I'm going to implement this review process and so on. So this is another thing that I really is important for cybersecurity professionals to understand the full stack of the things that they need, the difference between a policy, process, procedure, and how to implement them.
Wow. You touched on a lot of the points that I was gonna ask about, like in regards to planning succession and growing talent within your organization. What are some of the approaches? And you highlighted several of them, but if there's any other approaches that you prepare them to have that holistic view of the organization, from the people, the process, the technology, and the business. What other things do you want to see in those that you're looking to grow within your organization?
So the two things. One is, I think it was a question earlier, Renee, when you and I talked about it, is certifications. I think it's very important to have a certificate. I think some people with experience might look down at certificates, but I think they are important. They're an indication. To me, they're an indication, one, that you really worked hard, you did your part, you studied, you invested in yourself, and that's very important. It tells me you can persevere. And the second thing, it tells me that you have the knowledge, not just the experience. And even if you have the experience, I think certificates help people solidify experience with knowledge. So it is valuable, and I encourage my team to go into certifications. And in fact, one of my team members just finished a really complicated certification, and then I was very happy to see that. So that's one very important thing that I'd like to see in cybersecurity professionals. The second one is also being able to communicate the work that we do, creating what we call KPIs, key performance indicators. So it shows us that there is this mechanism of continuous review in terms of what we're doing, and we have some numbers and we have some ways of being able to evaluate our work. It is also a way of communicating to the executive team in terms of what we're doing, how we're doing it, and where do we stand in terms of our security posture. So I have a number of KPIs, key performance indicators, that I look at, and they involve simple ones, such as just measuring the threat levels. How many threats did we have? And we have the tools that can tell us that over a period of time, and whether the threats are up and down, and why is that happening? Trying to understand it. I always like to ask the question of why. Why is this happening? What's the story? Tell me a story behind what's happening as well. Are we getting an attack from outside the US by certain countries and so on? Why is it happening, on which systems, etc.? So having a threat level by numbers as a performance measure is important. Looking at the number of incidents and the size of those incidents and the impacts of those incidents, and how did we deal with them. So number of incidents, their severity, etc., that's another indicator that's very important. Then internally, I want to look at our employees and say, how are they prepared against cybersecurity attacks? So we're using a product called KnowBe4 that basically sends campaigns to our employees through emails, and tries phishing campaigns, trying to see if our employees are aware. We train them on an annual basis, and we run campaigns on regular basis, and we see which employees are failing, and then making sure that we train them again, they improve their skills. And I aspire on a quarterly basis to have 0 click-throughs, meaning 0 employees click on a phishing campaign email. So that's another one. We also have scans for our systems, especially those who are web-facing, externally facing. We have a product, we use a security scorecard, and that gives me an indication to where we are, and I always aspire to be in the 90, around the 95% security posture. It's very simple. It tells me where we stand, whether we have any holes, whether we have any issues in our digital products.
Okay, great. We have some really good questions coming in here.
Okay.
Saeed, Eric has a ton of questions.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He's really enjoying this. So let me chime in. Before I actually bring his questions up, I just wanted to share that the way you describe the airport model is something that, I've never heard it described like that before, but it's a perfect analogy for the way people should look at security now. And so that's definitely one I think I'm going to steal every once in a while. I take something that somebody has. So I'm telling you on camera.
No problem.
The model is awesome. And just, yeah, to reiterate some of the things, I just want to double down on the points that you made, the heat maps, the KPIs, really understanding the business, being able to communicate that. So a lot of our folks are more technical, and that's why, Saeed, I'm so happy you're here, because as we were talking about this beforehand, I wanted to really share I'm happy that you are here to share that this is what the board members look for. This is what your business partners are looking for. And so, for the folks that are underneath that might not fully understand all of this, really being able to explain that security is a risk. And when you talk about that heat map, describing that risk and how to mitigate that risk. So couple questions here, Eric. First one from Eric: one of the toughest aspects in deference to heat mapping of risk to the mission for the business is quantifying damage in dollar terms versus mitigation as a technical dollar amount. Where do you find the clarifying point when making investment decisions?
Okay, so let me try and understand the question, make sure that I paraphrase it and make sure that I'm understanding to answer it correctly. So I think the question is around, how do we quantify the risk in dollar terms that are really accurate, right? Is this a good way of understanding it?
I believe so.
Yeah, and being able to do that in a way that is also the business partners can understand it. And I'll give you a very specific example that happened just last week. So I mentioned our product, My Medicare Matters. It's a product that is on AWS. And if you remember, it was, I think, Wednesday before Thanksgiving when AWS Eastern region went down. And that was one of our risks. And the way we mitigated it is, like every hour, how many users do we have? What's the monetary value of those users? Looking at that, calculating the monetary value, and looking at what does it mean for us to take that product and actually move it into having high availability in other regions within AWS and the cost of that. So we looked at that too, and we were able to quantify precisely the cost of the 7 or so hours that AWS was down and our system was down. And with that, I have a risk. It is already in our heat map, and it shows where we are, and it is somewhere in the yellow area, because we look at it in terms of monetary value. It's not as high, it's not as severe for our business model. It's not as severe for our existence as an organization. I think at the end of the day, we need to take a look at it and look at the system if they are impacted by cybersecurity attack. Looking at what does it mean in terms of business term. If this system is down, a good example, I worked in telecom, and in telecom, there is a system that's called charging and billing solution. So it's real-time charging and billing solution. This is when you pick up your phone, you dial a number, the system in the back, all the software system in the back end, know who you are, which party you're calling, what package do you have, and immediately calculates whether you can continue with that call, you can proceed, and so on and so forth. We don't really think about it much, but those systems are absolutely instrumental to the existence of a mobile operator. I don't know if you remember, you might be young for that, but I think maybe 15 years ago, AT&T had an issue and their system went down, and the loss was enormous. So in these kind of business situation, when a core system goes down and has direct impact on business revenue, you can calculate that, and you have to have the right cybersecurity measures. So always look at system by system, the risks to those systems, assume that this risk will happen, and look at it. If this system is down for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and so on, what is the monetary value for that system being down? And then look at it and see whether that's a monetary value that the organization can live with and accepting that risk, or the organization, that risk is way too high in terms of monetary value. It could be also in terms of reputation and impact on brand. That's another thing that's very important for organizations. There can also be to some degree. It cannot be accurate. Like when you talk about brand and being attacked by cybersecurity and your data is stolen, we saw that in certain cases. But when you look at it with Target and with Sony and with others, there was a dip and a minor impact, and then went back to almost regular operations. But there is monetary value to those incidents, and you can calculate them in some cases. Other cases, you can make some assumption and get to an accurate. It's not going to be exact, but sufficiently for the risk exercise.
And when it comes to incidents like that, and I'm going to cite a recent one that's hot in the news, is the FireEye incident. How do you break through the PR of hype and what's happening and present to the board exactly what the risk is to the organization when something is so emergent and so late breaking that everyone's going to be reaching out to you in the middle of the night to figure out your risk
question.
posture?
And I think the way I look at it is I'd like to be, and we as cyber security professionals have to be ahead of the game. Meaning I should be communicating to my executive team, to my team members, to the board in terms of what are the risks, and telling them where the risks are and what we're doing what we are doing to mitigate those risks. So this is very important. I think the communication, the continuous communication with the executive team and with the board, and to show where we stand and the risks that we have is essential. So that's step number one. Then when the incident happened, people are not surprised. You've already communicated that something like this can happen. I already communicated that I cannot provide 100% security posture, but I will do, I'll put 100% effort. My team and I will put 100% effort to make sure we have the best security posture we can within the budgets and within circumstances that we have. So we prep people. People know that this can happen. And then when it happened, I'm sharing with them, telling them, okay, this is what we're doing. We have SLAs. In terms of SLAs, I presume everybody's familiar with the abbreviations. So we have SLAs with the business. We have SLAs with our partners in terms of when do we jump into the incident, what do we do, and what are the incident management procedures. We have a process. We have a whole process in place. We track it. We mobilize people to step in and to try and solve the problem. So we follow a systematic way of addressing these incidents, and we had many, and we still have. We are like everybody else. We're constantly attacked by state actors, by just general hackers, whether trying to test our security posture. And I have my team that wakes up when they need to wake up to step in to try and do what they need to do. We also, more importantly, we have monitoring tools. We don't have to be up all night 24/7. We have partners who are actually doing that on our behalf with all the tools that are monitoring them and looking at where the threats are coming from and to what extent those threats might actually materialize into an incident. And then this is when we step in. The team is woken up if they need to. Luckily, so far it's happened mostly in the afternoons and late evening hours. There was one incident that dragged on until probably late at night.
That guys have business hours too, right?
Yeah.
It always seems to be like Friday evenings. I remember being in the SOC, and something always went down like a Friday night. So we're getting some good comments here. Eric says he remembers the AT&T one, so he certainly remembers that. He also said that he was going, he knows where he was going with that when you were explaining Saeed earlier. And then Lincoln said, great explanation. So Eric had a couple other questions here. One was around, I'll put this one up first and then we'll go back to certifications. He said the impact of disclosure is also a planning element of the incident response plan. To whom, when, and what is always something you go for, which one should provide a communications plan. So back to your point, Saeed, of communicating up, having that incident response plan, knowing something's going to happen. It's like I tell people all the time, insurance, you're going to get in an accident. You drive a car, right? So you just know it's going to happen. Everyone understands what the next step should be. So I'm just so happy to hear you explain it from a communication standpoint, like just continuous communication, being proactive, sharing what you anticipate to your board, to your leadership, and the plan to get it back on track afterwards.
Yeah, so let me I think the question is about the communication plan. From my perspective, communication plan is part of incident management. Mm-hmm. We have to have a fully fledged incident management process, codified, people understand it, know it, and part of it is a communication plan. When do the security professionals, when does my team communicate to me and let me know that there's an incident? When do I communicate to my executive that there's an incident? There are incidents all the time. Some are, minor. They get resolved quickly. Our tools actually address them. We know about them either after fact or immediately. We see them, we resolve them, we move on. But then there could be incidents when we were attacked by state actors, and those were serious, and they went on for many hours. So our SLA, it's a serious incident. SLA says, within certain time frame, I need to inform my executive team. That's exactly what I did. Texted the CEO, texted the executive team, then sent an email and said, we're on top of it. We'll keep you posted until the issue is resolved. There's also the point at which you might want to also engage and communicate to the FBI, to the public, to issue a press release, and so on and so forth. It all depends on the very specific circumstances and the definitions that need to be in that security, the attack management process. So we need to have it. It needs to be part and parcel of that incident management process.
And they should be tried, true, and practiced over and over.
Absolutely. That's absolutely right. And if you don't, you get stuck. You have an incident. You don't have your process tested, and then you end up in really much bigger trouble than if you had done your homework earlier. Again, communicating and testing your incident management process is absolutely an excellent way of being ahead of the game.
Absolutely. So Eric's other question, when developing a team, how do you justify the cost of certifications, which may be a barrier to entry for talented candidates?
Okay, so, the good news is that classes like cybersecurity classes and training is going down, becoming more and more reasonable. And so is the cost for those certificates. To me, when I look at them, I can't remember the exact cost. They're in the few thousands of dollars. To me, this is an excellent investment. Whether personally, as a person, I want to invest, it's an excellent way as a cyber professional. If you don't have your employee paying for it, you invest in yourself, or have conversations with your employee and ask them to at least invest part of it. So the cost is going down. It is, to me, if there's an incident that is going to be in the tens of thousands or maybe more in terms of dollars, it's worth it to have my team up to date, have the best knowledge, have the certificate that shows that they have the knowledge, and they bring in that expertise into the organization. As I said, one of my team members has just finished his certificate, and he's bringing all these new areas that we should be paying attention to that we didn't sufficiently pay attention to, and he's proposing very specific actions that we should take. A good example, we were doing our pen testing on just, maybe twice, maybe 3 times a year. Now we're doing it on a monthly basis, and to the extent we can, and running the tools and so on, and we're measuring how it changes month over month and so on. So cybersecurity certificates are important and values, and I recommend it to leaders, to organizations and to individuals to invest in them.
What are your views on like self-directed learning and home labs, and for those that might not be able to afford the couple $1,000s for a certificate, but they're going out and they're using that open source knowledge for self-education, but they just don't have the paper to show that they did that?
Yeah, very good question. I think again, we are in a world that is really fantastic with a lot of resources that are for free. Like LinkedIn has a bunch of free courses for free. You've got community colleges that provide courses in cybersecurity that are very at low cost. So there are many websites out there where you can go and learn and read. I think what I'd recommend a number of things is looking at free resources on LinkedIn. There are a bunch of courses that are for free. Go try them out. Another place probably to start is studying, maybe not having the certificate, but studying for the certified ethical hacker. I think this is a very good entry point. You can look at what the curriculum is. You can look at what the material is. Maybe you could invest a little bit of money into the material and study on your own, maybe not taking a course. I think the important thing is to have a plan, to think about it. Okay, I want to get this certificate. How do I go about it with limited resources? Let me get the information about it. Let me look at courses that are for free. Let me do all the things that I can do and be prepared to get that thing. I think the important thing is to be persistent, to have a plan, and to think about how do I get to my objective of getting that certificate at one point.
And Eric follows up with the trajectory of certification is closely wed to recertification, which also has a cost. How does the organization best position to assist and keep certification knowledge fresh?
Yeah, so I think this question also relates to the fact that cybersecurity is an incredibly dynamic field. Mm-hmm. It changes so dynamically, and you can't have a certificate, last year, and that the knowledge that you had last year is going to be applicable today. And so we as an organization invest and pay for recertifications for our employees. It's very important, not just in cybersecurity, in other areas like the PMI certificates. It's very important for us to make sure that the team is up to date, taking whatever new refreshers in terms of courses that they need to take. Of course, there's cost to it. I think for those who are with limited resources, what I would recommend is subscribing to certain newsletters, subscribing to have a curated content. I have a curated content on Flipboard. This is an app. You can have it on your iPhone, your tablet, or even on your laptop. So, and I say, here are my interests in cybersecurity, in AI, and other areas. And I get curated content on a daily basis, and I look at the titles and the headlines, and then I say, okay, there's this event that just happened yesterday with FireEye. Then I look at it and say, okay, what's exactly happened there? And I educate myself and I try to get some, how is that incident, not just reading about the incident, not just reading about the information, but how is this information applicable to me as an organization, to me as an individual in trying to do my job. So there are certification is one area, but keeping on top of things, signing up for newsletters, and also having curated content related to this field.
So Saeed, Eric says, he follows up by saying here, that's so good to hear and is the right answer. There are many organizations that do not. They only pay for new certifications. So, we think that's short-sighted. We hear about budget challenges all the time. But, some of the points that you made, and I think back, I always sometimes go back to the medical industry, but doctors, nurses, all these people are getting certifications and recertifications every year. The things that they learned 5 years ago are not relevant today. So really continuing to do that and having organizations and leadership like you that, say, this is what we're investing in. We're investing in our people, and we have to continue to do so. Is so important, as well as the point that you made about the FireEye situation. looking at it as a case study, like not only this is what happened, but how does it impact us? How does it affect us? How could this, like all the trickle down effects, and what can we do to, not necessarily prevent it, because we know these things are like unpreventable. When they want to get to you, they will. But what can we do in the future? What can we do to mitigate? So we are almost at 45 minutes, which I anticipated, because I knew we would have great questions from people like Eric Williams and the folks that come on here very, very often. So Chris usually wraps up when he's here with the final question for you, Saeed. So Chris, take it away.
So if you had to summarize everything we've talked about today into one piece of sage advice for someone breaking into the industry, what would that be? Or
growing into leaders in the industry too.
Or growing into leaders, yes.
Yeah, that's excellent. I think, and it's a difficult question. It's very hard to summarize it in one single word and so on. I think looking at security as a coin with two sides is a very important message that I keep to hammering. A second message is you can't be 100%. You can't have 100% cybersecurity posture, but you have to put in 100% effort in getting there, which implies many different things, keeping on top of what's happening, the incidents that are out there, keeping on top of your skills, updating, having the certificates, having the knowledge, curated content that you get, so you are always informed. I think this is I'll summarize it by that. Can be 100% cybersecurity posture, but you should always aspire for 100% effort.
Thank you. Thank you for such a great session today.
All right.
Yeah, this has been fantastic. I knew it would be. The comments are still coming in, so we'll forward them to you afterwards, because we know, we want to definitely wrap. Saeed, thank you so much for this session. It's really, really awesome. I am going to invite you back right now. Come back on in the future to chat with us again, because as shared, so many of our folks are in the industry now and growing up now. So they got in a couple years ago, now going into leadership, getting to that director of security or CISO space, and definitely want to hear more from you and your peers around what you all look for. So this is very, very informative today. So thank you again.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Absolutely. So folks, as you all know, CISO Thursdays is tomorrow. We will be back with Chris and Alex and Naomi tomorrow, and we have a special guest too. So we will see you tomorrow on another edition of Breaking Into Cybersecurity. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
James Azar. What am I talking about, Alex?